Of course, it has to start like this, but it is what it is. We Gucci. We Gucci. All right, everyone, welcome to the FastPoint podcast, episode 2. Today with us, we have Marcel Rostic, aka Eirik Holdel Jr. Of course, Greedy also as well, making his comeback in today's episode as well. So, first of all, how are you guys feeling? We had our first World Tour weekend happening. How was like everything observing? How it was the vibe of everything, and how are you guys feeling so far as well?
I feel pretty happy with everything. It was hype, to be honest. Some matches were a little Resident Sleeper, but like that Solary BDS game really woke me up.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
it was always like it was constantly like action, and if you were following like regionals in between with TMGL, there was constantly something happening.
yeah, like this is starting to get us a bit of a new meta for Trackmania. There's previously it was like just 1 hour or something that's being played. Just like I don't know when TMGL step or when TMCL, but now it's like I was literally up from like 12 midday till like 4 in the morning. So there's quite a bit happening nowadays. So yeah,
Your sleeping schedule is absolutely in the mud. I
yeah,
don't know
believe
how.
me.
When do you sleep even?
Honestly, since it's starting to alternate, because 1 week it's like it's like goes like
Oh
Middle
yeah.
East, TMGL, and then NCSA, and then now the next week it's APAC, which is morning for us. Then it's Europe, and then it's TMCL, and then the next day is the same thing but with TMGL. So
Yeah, fair enough.
I kind of have to adapt with that. But thankfully, it's not like every like 1 weekend like that, and then it's kind of free weekend where there's no regionals. But instead, we all have Baltic League starting, so that's gonna be those weekends where Baltic League will be happening. But yeah, to kind of a bit summarize, that we're probably gonna touch upon the World Tour, what happened in the past, and will happen during this week. But outside of World Tour, there was something very special being announced, a bit out of nowhere, honestly. Is that Trackmania 2020 is gonna be coming on Steam. And this was something that most people had been really wanting when basically the game was announced. And what do you guys think of like finally it coming on Steam? Of course, it's not gonna be that big of a deal for people who already played the game, but for the growth of the game, I feel like it's gonna be a very big thing. What your guys' thoughts on it?
I feel like, well, as a person who has every single game on the desktop as a shortcut, I have no feeling of making a difference. It's still gonna go through Uplay launcher. Um, Putting up Steam to click on play to go to Uplay launcher sounds to me like a hassle. People get your games on desktop as a shortcut. Less trouble. Click. Game. Computer does it for you. Boom, bam, done. Problem solved.
Yeah, but
To me.
for example, for me, like I'm new to this, right? I like a year into this. I feel like this is a pretty big step, to be honest. I mean, for the well, how do you say it? For the reach, like so many more people like are using Steam than Uplay and Epic. Then I feel like this will be definitely a big step. Like I'm thinking of switching.
Well,
I
we'll see
mean,
how you can convert it though, because in theory, what's a good thing at least since it goes through like either if you use jump from Epic to Uplay or Ubisoft Connect, how is it now, or like from other things, at least you can then still have your profile. At least that's how it worked for Rainbow Six. Like I bought like Rainbow Six through Ubisoft Connect, and then I tried to convert it to Steam, and it was like I kind of kept my progress and everything, so at least that's fine in that sense. But we'll have to see how Trackmania converts to this. How will the subscription model convert this to this? I saw a lot of people were happy because they have something in their Steam wallet, and then I can get the game. So I feel like this could potentially, in theory, could also give a lot more accessibility for people who have standard or club accesses. So it's not just people. I mean, of course, the game will probably appear on the free selection if they're starter, which is a really good thing for like the depth of the player base. But we'll see how everything's working in practice since it's coming really soon. Actually, it's in
I
10
mean, yeah,
days, so that's also kind
it
of
is very
crazy.
soon, yeah. Yeah, and it's a good point in chat as well in Fuber. Just a fun fact that now the in-game hours are tracked properly as well, so you don't have to rely on Ubisoft hours being tracked. So if you're gonna start with Steam now, perfect time. You know exactly how many hours you're gonna get as well. But with the Steam thing, the biggest positive I will say that I enjoy is the fact that with the Steam, it's now that it's available on every major platform that is relevant. You have Steam, Uplay, and Epic, and on Steam you only had like the older versions of the game. And I've heard a lot of those cases where people buy the wrong game or get the wrong game. I mean, now you can't really go wrong. If you still get the wrong version, I mean, there's probably a bit bigger issues at hand, but now there isn't any excuse that it gets confused. There's now gonna be the new game on all of the three big platforms: Epic, Uplay, or Ubisoft Connect, and Steam. So
Yeah,
it
so
solves that issue as well.
yeah, hopefully there's gonna be no less Reddit posts. I bought Trackmania Turbo on Steam. Why I can't play couple a day as virtual? I think there's gonna be a bit less people like that now popping up on Reddit or people asking, "Is this game on Steam?" Yes, it is. Finally, yeah, the answer changes now. Okay, so that's at least a positive in that sense. And I think one of the main things is that, like I myself for other games, like I kind of actually do also look at Steam myself. For example, I was like myself, I really like Tekken, and honestly, if it wasn't on Steam, I would not probably buy the game. And I feel like if this is a thing that comes from other player, but I mean, this time I have a massive Trackmania bias, of course. That's why I could like get it. But on other franchises where I'm not as invested, I was like, okay, it's not on Steam, then I will pass. I had kind of my bias myself, and I feel like this kind of thing, especially when there's like the Steam sales happening, people buying, I think it can massively snowball things. I don't think it will be the same player numbers as Rainbow Six, I would say, or Rocket League at first, but I feel like this might at least launch the possibility to kind of go in that place a bit.
That is for sure. That is definitely what I think as well. Marcel, do you think that we will have an influx of couple of day players as well now, or do you feel like that won't change as much?
I mean, I think the Steam is a pretty big gateway for new people to come in. It's always something. It's always like a new stream of people that maybe weren't aware before or didn't really want to go through the hassle of making new accounts on different platforms. So I think it's a good gateway to make to bring more people into Cup of the Days, but also like maybe all of the game, not only Cup of the Days. But maybe we'll have some new records of player involvement.
Yeah, hopefully this improves that of the competitive scene. Something maybe we can a bit segue into is that we had like the first World Tour weekend plays. There were 2 regionals, Middle East and Africa, plus Turkey, I guess, as well. But it will be count as MEA and NCSA or America. So we don't have NACS, Marcel. So no, at least you get corrected properly. But
It's only an A.
I mean, there was the thing where your last time already mentioned that NCSA is like the most misspelled region, but I think slowly as things are start, people are gonna get used to it. But yeah, basically we had like the 2 regionals played, and we had the first play days of TMGL as well with the Super Week, and to kind of do a bit of recap. So MEA was played on Friday and Saturday, since there was a small behind the scenes a bit of a petition or a closed letter sent from some of the community members to switch up the dates. So that's why there was a schedule change done. And there were, despite the turnout rate wasn't the highest, but at least since we're kind of trying to see how deep is the player pool and everything like that, there were 6 teams, but we could still put up a decent tournament for those guys to play. The winner was the F15 team, or Chemko Birdie. When we did the predictions, I said that it's going to be the obvious when I said Husoina is going to be the the 2% win rate, but so we're kind of close on predictions in that regard with me from Creedy yesterday. And the NCSA one had a bit bigger turnout rate, but still wasn't that a lot considering that US is the biggest player base with only 19 teams. And then there was actually the favorites that we mentioned, that Neil and Nixotica. However, it was really close. Zetins and Tankrom they even entered the tournament as seed number 1, and yeah, there was. I think for the future regionals, I feel like NCSA is definitely going to be decently competitive if based on how things snowball afterwards. Because this was just the first tournament and everything like that. And we'll see how things move on to the future. We'll see more teams playing, what are going to be the storylines and regional scenes developing and things like that. What do you guys think of the regional performances? Actually, the broadcasts, what's interesting to note is that MEA peaked at 1,800 viewers on the main Trackmania channel without third-party streams. And NCSA, despite having more teams, in theory more player base, the peak viewership was at 800, which was on day 1 and not on day 2. So what are your guys' thoughts on that?
That's interesting. I thought that NCSA would be definitely higher in viewership, considering that they have the biggest player pool that might have been interested in the esports scene. But I guess good for MEA. I don't know. Maybe people like to watch blowouts a little bit more. With F10 crashing through the whole tournament. To be honest, I skimmed through. I've skimmed through both regionals. Couldn't catch all of the games, but I saw that Birdie and Chemko were definitely very clear favorites throughout the whole tournament. And yeah, the 2% prediction didn't come true as you hoped for. So. Performance-wise, I think MEA probably has a little bit higher ceiling than NCSA for now, but we'll see for the future.
Yeah. Well, for me, if I looked at the regionals, well, I noted down the, like, why NCSA had like less viewers is because first of all, MEA was viewable. But God, I can't speak English anymore. Was viewed by EU as well. Like,
That's true.
especially because of the time zone difference as well. It was basically the same as EU time, so a lot of people were able to watch it like after work times and everything. And EU people staying up late, even after watching TMGL as well, can be very exhausting. So it can be a result of that. Also, day 1 had Buckley and Lingo. I'll say that much. They didn't have it on day 2. We need to get them to the playoffs next times. And thirdly, I feel like it's just it's I don't know how much of the promotion has been going through like the NA or the North, Central, or South American scene that this is actually properly happening. Of course, you had 19 teams, but definitely there's room for more. But given the results, at least they were expected. What was predicted. Also, I'm sure that since Birdie was also playing, it helped as well. Man is a meme lord in his own, and everybody knows him as well, so everybody enjoys watching and rooting for him as well. And same goes for like I saw a lot of memes for Neil in NA as well. Like there was constantly just like Neil check DMs, spam this seal for Neil to go faster and stuff like that. So every region had their own little hype man or hype person they was rooting for.
Yeah, but one thing that probably to mention is that since like Mia, despite having a bit, I would say the performance-wise, the level wasn't that good. But I feel like the fact that they had some kind of personality from the scene definitely helped increase the viewership because there isn't really that there isn't like a content creator who plays in NCSA, and Birdie is like making clips, streaming a lot, and it kind of helps build a fan base because there were so many Birdie fans during the the regional on the main broadcast, and immediately there's like that percentage of viewers immediately jump. Of course, the time as well. It was like the perfect appetizer before TMGL, basically, kind of thing. But I feel like for the future, I feel like if NCSA really wants to like also get that more viewership going, like there needs to be like some people also making content and things like that. I'm not too sure how it will look like for APAC, because there's some. I mean, for APAC, well, okay, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but for Europe, it's probably just because it's so stacked, the biggest region, everything like that. But for between these two regions, there's a very interesting like these kind of stats kind of thing, at least from broadcast perspective. To note, even me, I had with all the broadcast issues and everything like that, it still managed to get that 2 times bigger viewership. But yeah, the time zones probably, and being before then after probably could be the big players there. But yeah, overall skill wise,
yeah.
So we had, like I mentioned, Tankrum Zetins, were number one seed, were very close. I personally think that was the best regional match so far. That best of 7 that was at the final was really nice to watch. I mean, it was like at 3 in the morning my time. I was like writing in the comment. I was like a bit hoping, please, that I want to go to sleep because I had to admin it. But yeah, it was a really nice match at the end, and I kind of want to see really how this develops because the Tankrom Zetins duo, definitely I feel like they could fight for the top 2 spots because top 1 goes to All Star. And like we mentioned the last time, the top 1 for All Star spots is the one that where Oryx won because they really get put up against like KC Solary or TMCL brands or Oryx. And that's kind of additional publicity and prestige building for their brands. Kind of thing, and this is a thing that could, if you're basically in those contender spots for the top, maybe not so much for TMC, I mean that as well, but especially for All Stars, like it can start to get increase the monetary depth of the ecosystem with some signages that are already happening, as we mentioned the last time around. But yeah, so basically, let's see how that goes. See how the regions develop, what kind of interesting storylines and competitions, rivalries, and everything like that, and see how at the first minor event, which is going to be the TMCL promo relegation event, the regions stack up. I think that's going to be very interesting to watch. To see, I feel like there's gonna be the start of the regional rivalries. Maybe, of course, Europe is the way dominant one, but I feel like this is a very good like starting point, and it starts to make me a bit excited for the first minor in that sense, or the TMCL promo relegation tournament, and we'll see how things develop. And I feel like it's gonna be giga hype if like a regional team beats a TMCL or a TMGL team even, because I feel like for them, those teams not gonna take the All-Star event that serious, but for regional teams, that's the place where they can improve themselves, kind of thing. But we'll see how
that's
things
the story. That's the goal, right, for these players.
Yeah, that's the story unfolds. Of course, we can keep it a buck 50 and keep it in reality. It's very unlikely to happen. But when it does, it's gonna be a proper explosion.
Yeah, it's gonna be so hyped
Yeah.
then. I mean, of course, the European number 1 is gonna be 100% the biggest chance to beat the TMGL, TMCL teams.
for
But
sure,
if a regional team like upsets, then it's like, interesting. Also, see how the regions stack up as well. Like how, let's say, APAC stacks up against MIA and NCSA and things like that. I think this is the very thing that there has never been in Trackmania. Now it's a thing that starts to pop up. It's very exciting in that sense. But yeah, now let's jump into TMGL Super Week, which was played last time. So we did a bit of a predictions here and there, and how some of the matches could end up with. As we said, that it could go any way because we had no idea to base off. Everyone was playing in secret. Only Big was the one public one, and now we saw first 2 matches, and I think we're starting to see a bit some ideas on how some teams might be placed at the end as well. So what do you guys think of how some teams performed, and are there some clear favorites looking like by the first weekend, and how do you think the league will develop over the next couple of weeks?
Well, to be honest, I think that, well, in my personal opinion, my top 3 for now are looking like to be BDS, Solary, and ITB. I think BDS and Solary are pretty apparent ones. ITB might be debatable, but I feel like they're looking very strong, very pacey. Some people might call them like glass cannons sometimes, but I think people were calling them glass cannons before the TMGL Super Week started. But I feel like they show that they sometimes lack consistency, but most of the time they know what they're doing, and they actually can rely on each other and on themselves the most, because they're not making as many mistakes as I think people were expecting them to. So my top 3 would be by BDS, Solary, and ITB.
I have to go with my MVP prediction that BDS goes 2-0, beating Solary and ITB. That Giga Chat off me, absolutely beasting in TMGL, properly laying waste to even APAC, who was really good, but in the end, Afi was even better. Like I saw there was like a graph of performance, and literally Afi was the top one, and Aurel was on average position was the last person. So it's literally a
The
BDS
BDS
sandwich.
sandwich. Yeah.
It's a proper.
Yeah.
They're inside the head of every team. But funnily enough, BDS is the only team to have played every map apart from their permaban. So I mean, the book is now open, so it's now time to counter BDS as well. And if Aurel gets up to pace, I mean, BDS is top 3 easy with Solary. And for me, there's a condition who's gonna be the third best, and that is between G1 and ITB. If we get Gwen day 2, G1 is easy top 3. Because Gwen absolutely showed up, and that's the Gwen effect that you had that we were talking about for G1, and he popped. He was doing some proper pace. Of course, there was world records upon world records, but nobody cares. Online world records were easy to beat. We saw that
Even
on
I
every
had
map.
world record on the public one.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Like everybody, so that doesn't matter. But in rounds, Playday 2, Gwen was insane. And I kind of be honest, I'm kind of worried. If I had to look towards the more of the bottom barrel, Sinners and Carmine Corp were the biggest. More surprisingly, Carmine Corp actually. Sinners were something that we alluded to last time, but Carmine Corp, Bren did do well, but as soon as Bren fell off for the second day, didn't have really a good day. Otak, I don't know. He didn't really get the groove on. I either he's not there yet, maybe he didn't get the maps too comfortable yet. I don't know. It's Carmine Corp is weird.
He tweeted that he is very stressed about this Carmine Corp thing that they took him in, and he's trying to get into the groove. So I think that is the nervousness that is getting into him and the pressure of being in such a big team. Carmine Corp is really an insanely big name right now. And in Trackmania especially, I feel so with Bren beforehand. But yeah, and when Altak probably gets his groove on, they will start climbing the ranks. But for now, they were pretty much a letdown.
I felt like G1, for example, on day 1, they had a lot of like pressure because G1 at the moment is the team or the duo that has the most budget behind them. And I felt like they had a bunch of pressure with that, but I feel like that they got a bit of groove with things from day 1, and that's why they played good. However, it was a bit hard to tell. Was it G1 actually playing good, or was it actually KC not playing as optimal?
Yeah,
So that's kind of the
point.
thing. So it's kind of hard to say in that regard. I feel like the big decider will have to see if G1 actually is a team, how they basically perform against something like Solary.
Yeah.
So I
But
feel like
then
that's going to be the
again-
decider if they are actually a good team in map or not, in my opinion.
Then again, it sets like going back to like BDS and Aurel. It's technically, of course, we can say a lot that Aurel wasn't performing, but think about the opponents they had. They had Solary, which was Carl and Pack, where Carl actually was not performing as good as Aurel even. So Carl actually was the one out of pace in that one, and they played ITB, the glass cannon, as I've called it multiple times. Alcon and mine being a very contender for the top 5 currently in the league. So, of course, we can say a lot about Aurel, but I feel like their next opponent was, I believe, Carmine Corp. No, sorry, not Carmine Corp. They have G1 next. So they have a lot of strong opponents early on. So if they can get through that 3-0, they have a really good road to be winning this season. Not gonna lie. That's a very good setup for them.
In my hidden placements, I saw when I saw Virtual putting BDS at the biggest underdog.
Oh, that's a meme.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I actually had BDS like at the top. I had this thing where basically I feel like Afi has improved in terms as a pacey player, and he has maintained the consistency, just taken to the next level kind of thing. And Arvel is basically the way how I saw Arvel at least before the matches is that he's the giga consistent but not as fast player, and he basically catches on and every single time when someone saves too much or he makes a mistake, and that basically allows BDS to elevate in that sense. But RL wasn't really looking as the RL I know from last.
In the match against Solari, I just want to add, like, I mean, he was definitely how do you say it, capitalizing on the mistakes that Solari made, but often that was also in the pair of Afi making mistakes, because he was taking a lot of risks, to be honest, too. Aurel overall wasn't the fastest. Well, he was trying as much as possible on maps like Agility Dash. He was pretty fast there, consistent overall, but only some maps. Because from what I've heard, like on the broadcast, they were saying that BDS took, like, for example, Agility Dash as some kind of challenge to be the best at this map, when others were trying dismissing it as they were hating on it. So our realm might have gotten better at this map particularly, because they were focusing on this one more. But at some maps, he was just slow, and sometimes also inconsistent. To be honest, he was making mistakes and often falling in the last place. So Aurel, like in average, he had the lowest average placement of any player throughout the whole week. So I feel like Afi like really pulled it together, that win against Solari, but Aurel was kinda that reliable part sometimes on particular maps where he actually capitalized on Solari's mistakes, which were plenty.
I mean, Aurel at least keeps his tradition of clutching it or making the rounds counted to when it does matter, at least. There were multiple cases when Aurel needed to get a round, and he did get it. It wasn't maybe not always the first, maybe not always getting second, but when it counted and he needed to get like a third to secure a win right away, not to go to another round, he was able to at least do that. So that the BDS consistency does help. But I feel like there is one team that has gone completely under the radar. Probably one of the more interesting teams is Alliance. I feel like Alliance has gone really under the radar, in my opinion. There isn't really remark. Of course, they beat G1, but then they lost to ITB again. I feel like Alliance is the team where there's still a lot of question marks. Of course, Mara being a champ of TMGL champ, of course, recently and everything. But then again, Solskjaer has been a question mark a bit as well. So there is a few question marks there that I feel like still need to be unanswered, and they've gone under the radar. Not many people are talking about Alliance inside of Carmine Corp, Solary, Sinners, BDS, G1, but Alliance, what about them?
Alliance feels like Arvel from past seasons, honestly. Like they're kind of gonna be at the top, like they will make playoffs, but like no one really kind of notices them. Kind of like, I feel like they have that similar vibe as they had like a couple seasons ago. But we'll see. Those are only the two play days. I still feel like that's. I can see like something like Sinners do a bounce back, but Sinners has such a wide range of like playing good and not being good. Like the what was yesterday against Big, like that was just that, like, I don't know what I was. I felt like honestly there were regional teams playing better than Sinners that match. Honest, like way better. Like
Yeah,
it
I feel like
didn't.
sinners often are uh, going for safe strats that are more consistent but slow, but they're doing it in so many instances that it just loses them so much time that it's honestly sometimes laughable, which is not a nice thing to say, but to be honest, like their best time on which map I'm thinking, Sleepy Slides were like 12-5, and I don't know how to feel about that when Sleepy Slides is 12.5 your best time, when Afi and Pac were pushing it every round for 11.2. So that is tough. That is tough. On stuff like freestyle, they were going for 360s on the identity. They were going. I'm pretty. Did we see them play gyroscope? I'm not sure. I don't want to make stuff up.
The thing is, like, in this, Sinner's Burma ban is gyroscope.
Yeah,
They
that's
never play.
what I'm.
That's their Burma ban is gyroscope, and
And
the
I
thing,
think that's exactly
yeah,
why, right? I think that's because they're probably not feeling comfortable with going with the iSlide through the identity, and it loses and it saves so much time. We've seen that.
yeah, and the thing is, like, for me, like Sinners, when we take freestyle, I feel like freestyle summed up very well, like what Sinners has been. They started off well because they aced big twice in a row. They went 6-0, but they lost that match 10-7. And I feel like that is pretty much the story of Sinners, like, for the first two play days. They started off well, and then it faded away. They started off well on freestyle, but then it faded away. So it's I don't know if it's the maps because they are more technical players, so they tend to go towards like to more towards like more technical map oriented slow down. You go for reps was also something that they went for at as well. So they are going for more technical, but there aren't that many of them. They have been playing freestyle, which is pretty much dependent on the ending. We've seen so many clippings there. That's insane. Like a lot of TMGL players have been clipping there. Same goes for regionals, so it's a very tough identity to do it riskier way. Back and forth, it's more of the map that is very odd. The ending, my identity, cough cough, very consistent and very good. I'd say no bias there. Very close rounds though. There, I must admit. And slippy slides. How many times have you seen in your life Kappa and Tween doing a bug slide? Uh, I feel like this is the first time I've ever recorded history that Tween and Kappa have done a bug slide in a competitive scene. So
Maybe it's the
Grassline,
Raider Cup, like
Grassline.
years
I'm
yeah,
ago.
calling it.
actually, yeah, fair point. Serrator might be the case. Yeah,
But
that's
yeah,
a
I'm
fair
calling
point there.
it was Grassline last TMGL.
Uh, uh, True. Yeah,
So
fair enough.
they were prepared.
Yeah,
At
something
least
like
a
that. But
little bit.
still,
but yeah, one thing that we haven't team that we haven't talked about is Big. Big was the team that was training the most in public, like trying to be on the content side with their practice, like using as a content tool.
Mm.
And well, they're currently at the like, I mean, they're 1-1, but mainly because they played that really against really bad Sinners team. Which kind of really helps with their standings now, because math differential is one of the main tiebreakers that's going to be taken. Basically, getting that 4-0 is a really good thing for Big, especially since they had the Grenade incident with their pedals, uh, which was a bit funny for a moment, but yeah. But yeah, basically, Big was looking as one of the potentially bottom teams, and was kind of, for me, the Big and Sinners match was kind of the match on who's gonna be not good, or who's gonna be last, or who's not gonna be last, kind of thing. And we'll have to see how things develop. But well, both of those teams are
yeah.
kind of. I would at best I would put them fifth or something like that. Like I can't
I'm
see them breaking into top four. Both of those teams so far.
I'm yet to make a decision on Big because there hasn't been a really representative match. Solary was plagued by the technical issue and it sort of fell apart from there. I even for myself, if something technically goes wrong, it's very hard to bounce back there because you're constantly worrying about it. I'm sure Granadi constantly had his in mind that he has to do the right bindings, that he doesn't have to do the old ones. So I feel like there hasn't been a representative match. Now, the next match, it will be against Alliance. I feel like based on that result, I can make a final assessment or at least somewhat of an assessment of Big. But currently, like at least Big sits in a sort of a gray zone. They had a really bad off day due to issues. They had a very quick and clean sweep against Sinners. So I don't really know where to put them. Like, and again, Massa and Granadi are very good at well, and we've seen as well, like they did a lot of practice as well. I do believe that Massa has been mentioning that there has been less offline prac than he wishes. Of course, I could be wrong, but at least that's the feeling that I've gotten from him. So at least for Massa, that I've heard or at least understood from his constant comments on stream and as such. But to me, at least, I have to wait with Big. I don't know where to put them. They are currently sharing the 5th and 6th with ITB, but I mean, ITB had to play BDS and Alliance, so
which are in
take it
theory
how you
are
can.
also like they're like top 4 teams. That's the way things are looking. So I feel like
Yeah.
ITB also might be in that top 4, top 5 range so far, because I'm starting to see like this split up a bit, where Solary, BDS, Alliance, G1, and ITB are kind of the top side, and then KC, Sinners, Big are kind of the bottom side. I'm starting to see this kind of split starting to create. But of course, we'll see how things develop. This was just literally the first weekend. People might get used to since we played the same maps. It's just gonna see how people evolve. I'm assuming people gonna get way more consistent with their pace as times go on, and we'll see how things develop. I still do think that a team like Sinners really benefits from having the same map pack, because this was in the old TMGL seasons when there were basically the old sets were used again. Then they were like really, really good on those maps, and this is a thing that I feel like Sinners could benefit in theory, but we'll have to really see how it works in practice.
And to be honest, like this was the first week of playtime. Like this is the time that like most of the things got revealed. The lines that people were using, people can now see what's going on and adjust them. Now that Sinners saw what others are doing, they might practice those lines some more. Maybe those were things that they haven't found. Maybe those were things that they weren't comfortable with. I'm not sure. I'm kind of leaning towards the latter one. But yeah, now every team can see what everyone else was doing, and maybe they want to implement those lines into their own game, and this may look very different next week when people are practiced more.
One thing to mention about lines, since like the regionals and the matchmaking also like have like basically the same maps in the essence, there's like some parts of the maps, if someone finds like a line like an easy version, use it in regionals and matchmaking, like they can also then be used in TM. For example, there is a line on a specific map that I have seen a regional player use, which is faster, which is a part of the main version as well, which none of the TMGL players have done it. So I feel like if like they at least check out what the regional scenes are doing, they also might learn something. So
I know what map you're talking, and I know exactly what you're meaning as well.
I don't want to say it because then everyone's gonna jump at it. But there are like things like that literally can develop, because literally this is just the first weekend, and we basically have more than 2 months of playing on the exact same set, and we'll have to see how things evolve with this kind of map set. And this, since this was literally just the first official match days with this kind of ecosystem and everything like that, and we'll have to see how things evolve in the future then.
Yeah, but what do you think about the difference between having like a super weekend now opposed to TMCL, who's having a super week in the end? Do you think that would have benefited, for example, Sinners a bit more? Like there could be a duality in that as well. You see the strats first day. Okay, you go 1-0-1, for example, but then you have the things to catch up as well. Do you think that would have played a bigger role? Maybe have the super weekend only at the end, have a bit of that excitement, or you think that excitement maybe fades away because maybe the results are already known in advance, and then that super weekend won't be as super? What do you
I
think
feel
about that?
like we have to see in like 2 weeks when you get actually a bit used to having the actual system where it's like just one match a week kind of thing, and then we have like something to compare against. Because at the moment we only from the official, like the thing is, the regionals play like multiple matches a day. Like if you do good, like for example, let's take an example, the NCSA winners. So they played so they played like 2 or 3 matches on day 1, and then again 2 or 3 matches on day 2. So they had like 6 like 3 best of 5s and then 3 best of 7s that they played. Well, TMGL plays only 1 best of 7. So there's a bit of a difference in terms of how do you play. So there's basically more. What am I saying is that there's more to judge from regional scene tournament structure than from the league play that the TMGL uses. So there's a way you can have like you see more of the data set in that sense. Like because there were literally players who were like really not that good in round 1, round 2 in the regionals, and starting round 3, round 4, round 5, they started to get really used to things, and there was like actually proper match being played. I don't know how many of you followed, but like the quality of the games, even from the top teams that end up winning, in early rounds, they were like crashing, a lot of very inconsistent. Of course, in the final, they were still there, but they were way, way, way less, and the whole gameplay was starting to become way more polished. And I feel like this might be the same case in TMGL as well. So we're currently only that one round 2, I feel like, with TMGL. And we'll have to see how things develop, because I feel like at the end of the stage, or at the last few playdays, literally the team who's going to be the most consistent is going to win, I feel like.
Which will
What do you
be
think, Marcel?
Which would be kind of hard to say. Like, only things that we can kind of judge is that Pac is looking really consistent and Afi is looking really consistent. Everyone else
Can I
is
say
still getting
something?
used to it. Things.
I just want to add something. Like was Carl Jr. like kinda a letdown? I'm feeling like he didn't show up that much this weekend. Am I the only one in this feeling, or others are too?
I mean, in general, if we look at what we expected from, I was expecting the other way around. To be honest, I was expecting Carl
Yeah.
Jr. to be the one leading the pack and the lead and the pack taking more time. But it seems that either pack has come more accustomed to the maps quicker. If Carl hasn't had as much time as well, but then again, we always come to the same rotation, which I went with my predictions. You cannot count out the biggest world champ of the game. Yeah, we've seen it before as well. Like there have been, I think, in previous seasons as well, where Carl maybe hasn't started off hot, but then he's just popped everybody, and it's just GG to everybody. If Carl gets to the same pace as Pac is right now, it's neon impossible for any team to compete with that. Like, I don't see any way that.
I'm definitely not counting him out, but I just was surprised that Pac was doing way better, and Pac was doing like amazingly. By the way, like he was doing. Like he was top 2 right after Afi. Afi was the best week 1. I think Pac was number 2, but yeah, Carl Jr. was just kind of a letdown. That kind of surprised me, because I thought he'd be pulling more weight in this duo than he did this week.
I mean, it's kind of hard to jump to conclusions because it was just like one weekend. It's kind of hard to judge. Like I said, it's literally just 2 best of 7s. Like the regional example that I said, we're currently still in the round 2 of things. Like the proper consistency and like the big gap that you can see starting somewhere around round 4, round 5. But we'll have to see. I would say like in like 3 weeks, we kind of have to see how things start to settle in and how players actually play with this ecosystem, with this environment, with the structure and everything like that. That will be the best time to actually come to some kind of conclusions. But for now, I feel like there's not enough matches. But it's interesting to see in which places things can deviate. And it's like a good talking point for now. Because if it's going to go to transfer period, and this is the place where the new system is going to be fun. At least from not player perspective, absolute opposite. From viewer perspective, because if you literally play bad, your team can bench you and you're out of the league like that. If someone basically plays bad for multiple days like this, for example, if how Sinners, let's say, didn't have the best of these, if they repeat that thing, then they can literally, let's just say Sinners might have a new lineup then.
I mean, you can swap only one player at the mid-season, right?
Not mid-season. It was after the stage. So, we can call it mid-season, yeah. But it's basically after the stage is the transfer period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but so you can only change one player, right? So, well, that's gonna be fun though, because there's gonna be because if that happens, what I'm thinking that some of the duos are really like packed together. Like they come in a package. I feel like I feel like Kappa and Twin are kind of inseparable. Uh, this is like a duo that well, what can I say? It's kind of like a boomer squad. What I can say. They they're in the scene for like forever. They're friends for forever, and to be honest, I don't see that even if they like bomb out together. I don't feel like anyone will be like switched out by the team. I feel like they kind of make the decisions for that roster. But other teams, I feel like this will be interesting, definitely, to see other variations of some like pairings, because Trackmania seems kind of like a place where everyone is friends and everyone loves each other, and you kind of can't feel. I kind of don't see like the benchings from other esports happening like as a normal thing during the season. But when that happens, it'll be very interesting to see how the duos will adapt and what other variations of teams we can see.
I feel like since this is a starting point for such an ecosystem, and since like the competitive circuit has like way bigger depth now, it definitely increases the scoping pool of players. So let's say as a some theoretical example, like let's say someone from the European regionals is absolutely looking giga solids, like really good, and they could literally just get swapped out, even skipping challenger. I mean, it doesn't mean that you have to be in challenger to get picked up if you're just too good, or just have some. You're basically worth for the duo. Let's just say like that. There might be some interesting pop-ups happening and some swap outs and things like that. And without being like with kind of friends being kind of thing, I feel like if since like we just said that the game will be out on Steam soon on consoles, if there's gonna be some players who might be playing starting to settle in regionals, there might be some who's like randomly getting slowly picked up, and I feel like this might start to maybe become an. I mean, Trackmania is like so experienced based game. I feel like it's not gonna happen that soon. I mean, for example, like Neil and Exotica, yeah, they're currently the best in their region, but basically, majority of their region is who they're playing against are people who have played with the new game. While as TMCL and TMGL are basically people with at least 5 years of playing time as minimum, and that's like competitive playing time. It's not just I used to play Trackmania in like TMNF LoL servers in like 10 years. No, it's like they're play for that year amounts, like competitive environment, either team events, like what it was back in the day. Like they're basically in this environment for that X amount of time, and we'll have to see
I
how things
think.
develop, but it kind of gives a
Mhm.
some kind of metric of around what time we could start expecting some players to be in this range to be potentially picked up for TMGL or TMCL even.
Yeah, but I think it will be probably pretty uncommon to see like from regionals to TMGL shuffle. But I definitely see possibilities of shuffles between TMGL and TMCL. Like players like Wasal, Miquatro that have qualified for TMGL, but well, we're kind of unlucky with the organization pickups signings. They would be. I see the possibility of them getting into TMGL um, after the first stage. That is a possibility. Definitely when some teams might just well not perform as well as people were uh, well uh, I'm looking for the word expecting to as people were expecting to like I don't I as like again I don't want to like write anyone out, but like K Corp for now I think when if Sinners do as bad as they are doing right now, there might be some changes there too. But I doubt Sinners lineup will change. But if K Corp, for example, bombs out till the end of the season, it might be there might be changes.
what if not the Sinners, but the whole org gets bought out or something? Like there's more eyes slowly happening on the game. Let's say if
Well,
Sinners don't go, there's eventually some kind of buyout might be happening, and I think then the whole thing is even getting more spicier then, because I feel like about the pickups, it's not so much. Since there's so many more attributes than just having a good player on a duo, like being good is one of the things that definitely brings value to the org. But if you have a good content reach, like you get that fan base around, that's like additional value that can get as well. Like being good is like the starting point. It's just using the fact that you're good, trying to build a brand around it, and then it makes a bigger thing that can make it more interesting for a pickup. I feel like if there's like a player who's really you have to be giga good I feel like to be picked up in TMGL without having no content creation on the side. But if you do content and you're good, then there's way high likelihood than having a giga good player. At least having one on a duo, because at the moment for Sinners, there's like none of them don't really. I mean, Kappa streams here and there, but if there's like they would have, I think the perfect duo mashup for like TMGL probably would be like a content creator player, competitive player. Let's say something like Scrappy, for example. Like it can brings a lot of value to the org, and then you have like a pretty solid side player basically who's like giga good at the game as well. And then it's like you have like this kind of mashup for the TMGL, and I feel like this is one of the things which gets a bit skewed in a bit of the old structure of TMGL, where the Grand League is the partner team. It's like the orgs own the slot. In theory, they could even pick someone like Virtual or Janik as well, like as be as a duo, because due to content, and they see that's the valuable way how they can approach the league. It's good content for them, and that could be the duo. So it's like a bit of the biases and interesting ways how the league can shuffle up. I don't know if you know, but in there was the CIS League of Legends league where basically they also have like a partner, but they actually have a franchise system, not partnered. And what they did just for publicity, they picked up a all-female team for publicity. Despite them being at the bottom of the thing, they literally just got fans because they have like an all-girls team, for example. Do you think that could be like a situation that could happen in the future with the transfer windows, when there's like an org that doesn't have let's just say Sinners, which isn't like the biggest org in the world, and then let's say some other org buys the slots and then gets two content creators and basically have something like this going on? Do you see that being as a possibility in the future?
I feel like given the current size of Trackmania, I don't think so. Currently, the mentality of the leagues in general is very competitive minded, and so far at least the teams that have are in there do want to do good as well. It's not like they picked up the duo and it's like I don't know, Andy number 2, Peter number 1, and that's their duo. Like so far every at least for Trackmania currently it has been competitive. I feel like that is something to look forward to maybe in the future, but for now the mentality is very competitive in TMGL, TMCL, and technically even regionals, because the bigger duos are picked up
And
by
scouted as well.
yeah, and scouted as well. So the mentality is still very competitive. They want results at the moment, and the results currently also bring in the publicity, because currently the publicity is tied to the results, because you want to be first, you get to all stars and possibly do even world championships, and there's a wild card even as well.
Yeah, of course.
So the results give you the publicity at the moment. So maybe in the future that can change, but I feel like that is the current mentality at least.
Now, this is one of the reasons why I feel like such system that is used for Trackmania is really good. This having this hybrid of partner league, then you have like this closed league where you can qualify yourself into. Then you have the open circuits regional events, and then it still all leads to world championships. So you can't have like not that well performing team basically make it to the, let's just say, win world championship by accident kind of thing. How I accidentally won a Trackmania World Championship kind of thing. So there aren't such things. So at least the ecosystem, like if you look like in the macro scale, at least works like that. So So it's like if you do good, you're still gonna the best team will come out on the end. You just have these multiple pathways how you can climb with that and multiple options because the new rotor system is not that linear. It's not just like okay, you can play regionals, then you go to TMCL, then you go to TMGL. Okay, then you get to World Champions. No, it's like we discussed this before the podcast started. That in this system, in theory, there's like 0. Like a very giga low chance that there can be a team that can, if they win all regionals, they win matchmaking for every stage, they win all-star events. That's never gonna happen. Ain't no way. But if that does happen, there can be like a team from regionals to jump into the main events of the wild card. And if that's basically you do the max that you are supposed basically given in your environment, and then you'll get rewarded accordingly. And this is one of the things in the macro scale that I feel like most people are not aware, especially from the casual side of the scene, because they just see TMGL, oh, that's like Div 1, TMCL, oh, that's like Div 2, oh, it's like regional, oh, it's like open qualifiers thing. But in reality, it's just like a part of the ecosystem. It's just the open circuit parts, the closed league, and then the partner league. So I feel like that's something when, as the time will go on, people will just get used to that, and I feel like people will be more understanding. Okay, what do regionals mean? What does TMCL mean? What do All Star mean? And things like that. But yeah, it's very exciting times in that sense. So we bit talked about in this about orgs. There was this. I really don't want to touch upon the G1 caster drama. I'm not aware what really happened there. Maybe you can bit chip in there if you saw it.
Well, I was just I tuned in for a bit, and I did see like there was a case where they like had like Trackmania was the game that they were streaming, but the title was like Valorant ranked games. So you know, it's if you know Oda Block, then you know a lot of things. Of course, Oda Block is of course mainly an old school RuneScape streamer, or known for it as well. So there's a lot of cases to be made, and I did hear about something like the CEO also being there. They were sort of not, well, they were not taking the cast seriously, but they were just, you know, doing their own stuff, you know. So it was sort of like not like that, but it's like the TikToks on where you have like a random press forward map at the bottom, and then there's a random topic at the top as well. It's just as a feeder in a way, and in some sense it felt like it as well. So maybe G1 are not taking it as, or at least the caster in this case isn't taking it as seriously. Gwen and Binks, I'm sure, are taking it as seriously as possible. Whether the mentality is the same for G1 CEO and the caster is a different story, of course. At least that looked to me like that.
I see. All right, so we'll probably done with jumping into the future. So next week, or this week more like it, because we're already on the Monday at the time of speaking this. So next week, or okay, this week, what I say. So this week we have the first TMCL matches played out. We have the third round of the Grand League, and as I said, it's gonna be the wildest two regions: Europe, aka the do or die region, and APAC, the all over the place region. So those regions gonna be played. So Europe is, as we said, it's gonna be so wide open. There's gonna be teams. I'm 100%. There's gonna be some teams, like good teams, like that have like trained and everything. That's not gonna get a single World Tour point. I feel like in the first regional, and NCSA regional showed that how much does matchmaking matter for CD actually. Like Manox, for example, did not play. He was like only silver 1 or something, and Mello, who was like gold 2, and since the Wake House, they only got seeded number 10 out of 19 due to that. And in the round 1, they played against Charles and Nuts, which are basically both of our top 8 teams with that. And there was like Evo Americas as well, which literally was seeded last because none of them have played matchmaking at all. And it's basically showed that how much seeding matters. But in Europe, it's going to be full-on single nation. So the seeding is going to giga matter. and I think it's gonna be so all over the place. Like I said last time around, I would not be surprised if there's gonna be a team which wins regional 1 and doesn't make even day 2 afterwards, in the next regional, that is. And it's gonna be so exciting to watch in that sense, and I really want to see who goes through that crazy gauntlet. And do you have so far scouted or noticed any really noticeable duos who might be the ones in that contending position to win the first European regional?
I mean, I have the Excel sheet of the announced duos for the World Tour, and I'm gonna be honest. There's a lot of course, spicy ones that you have. Of course, you have the Evo lineup, Deska and Stuffs. You have like former former Challenger League player, like you have Darkwix with Sam, for example. You have Speed Self Tamboleto. You have There's just so many duos. You have Vulnera Haedra as well,
Rosy,
Mika
Tricky.
and Mimo Jr. There's just impossible to call. Like there's so many. It's like going to a candy shop and just seeing so many pieces of candy. You're like, I want this, but this is also good. I have this much money. What am I gonna buy? I have no clue. Like, the point about EU is that matchmaking matters so much for that regions. It's insane. For other regions, you can get away with it because you can play anyway. But if you don't play matchmaking, you don't even get to be in the tournament. Because the way it works for EU is that it rounds it down or up based on the number of participants. So it goes 32, 64, 128 due to bracket limitations and stuffs and all of that. I'm sure SRK can talk about it later, but it's basically just so it's easier to manage, and probably the plugin dies in 5 seconds if any other misnumber is. But so you really want to be doing good in matchmaking and just to get into the tournament, let alone playing. And then you can play, and you might get, I don't know, Ratchet and Barbos could be playing that regional
Yeah,
as well,
because
and you're just
TMGL and
screwed.
TMCL teams
GG, well
also
played.
can play in the European regionals in theory as well. So that's a
Yeah.
thing that can make it. And, especially for TMCL, like from their season, if you get last, you get only 12 points. And if you win 2 regionals, it's more points than getting last in Challenger. So I'm 100% there's gonna be at least one Challenger team playing in the regionals. Like they will have like day 1 warm up and they immediately jump to Challenger matches or something like that. Like I'm 100% that's gonna be happening. And I feel like it's gonna make it so interesting because you have this, okay, I have this Challenger team playing in the regional and then they bomb out or something. And I feel like this is one of the beauties of the ecosystem. Like you literally have, like in other games, like you have, like in, I will use League of Legends example, where they have a franchise system. You never see the franchise systems in any third-party events, but here you can literally see the closed league or partner leagues appearing in the regionals, and then you can see how they add up, and it makes it so much more exciting to follow the scene in depth and as well. Like who was this like random French duo who upset, like, I don't know, I don't really think alternate attacks could get upset, but like let's say for example Lincoln McQuattro could get upset or something like that. And well, yeah. And okay, that's the European regional. As we say it, the do or die. If you win, you go to next round. You lose, you're out. One thing to mention is that in case there's gonna be some crazy scenarios, if like all TMGL teams play or TMCL and none of the regional teams get points, then their positions in the bracket are used as the secondary tiebreaker. So even if you, let's say, don't get that many if you don't get points, the position still will be taken in consideration for some tiebreaker situations if they will occur. If there's like, since it's so wide open, there's probably going to be some teams with like just 1 or 2 points or same amount. Then the positions from the regionals will be used as one of the tiebreakers in those situations. So that's something to note in mind as well. So if say, man, I went out in like round of 32, but that still weights something in the upcoming or in the long term of the season as well, which is something that most people probably didn't notice. in the rulebook. But yeah, that's one thing. And now other region is APAC. But APAC is well, I would say it's the closest one to compare to MEA for now in terms of size per se. But in terms of wildness, it's comparable, I would say, to Europe. This region, it's gonna be all over the place. It's gonna be the good old like they so far from the duos announced or everything. I haven't seen that. Only notable duo there is Kuda Jinkra and Spark. Other than that, I haven't really seen anyone.
You have Kimi and Pixels and Spell as well. Like you have like every duo has like one notable player. I feel like that.
Yeah, they don't have like
following.
good. Like the problem is with APAC that they don't have good duos because basically every single duo except the Kuda and Kunal one is there's a good player, like a player with some potential in it, and then a player who's like not good, and then you will have this wildness due to that, which is a bit of a shame in a sense because I feel like then the whole level of APAC is not gonna be that good. No, for example, Spider is looking not too shabby on World Tour maps, at least for the level of APAC. Like, I would say if there was, like, Spider and the equivalent player with him, and then they could be, like, contesting with, like, number 2 MIA, number 2 NCSA kind of teams, maybe number 1-8. But since he's playing with Starlight, I have no faith in that, honestly, afterwards. Despite Spider being, like, when we did the solo clashes, he was, like, top 5, top 10 in terms of peak pace. And in rounds, he was not looking too bad. I believe he's, like, he's currently the highest in matchmaking from APAC as well, but since his duo is not good, it's like I just have no faith in that.
And yourself, Marcel? Do you follow a lot of the minor regions at all? Do you have, or you're the?
Or should I explain everything?
I am staying silent a little bit because I don't really have that much knowledge about the minor regions, as you call them.
Let's just call them APAC, regions. I feel like calling minor.
Yeah, let's call them regions. Yeah.
Okay.
APAC, I don't really know much from what I've heard from SRK. He, as he told me privately, that most of the like top players are gone. Like they're not playing this year.
Yeah, there was like very unfortunate timing of things.
Yeah, so that's something that is, I think, worth considering for future seasons, that it might look different if players come back and, well, when those players that will come, that are known to be, that are known that will come back, then it will look different and probably on more positive side for APAC. For now, I don't really know much about this region, so I'm not gonna really speculate on anything. So I'm just giving you guys.
I kind of can give the rundown to have some insight in APAC at the moment. So the thing, basically, APAC is not just Asia, but it's also Oceania and eastern side of Russia. This is the region that. So like a year ago, OCE or Australians were looking really good, but due to the last year, they started to fell off more and more and more. There were players like Fiddy, Winky, especially Winky Face, who was like really stepping up. Like he was like comparable with Neil and Exotica, basically. Like he was like in that same tier with them as the up and comers. But now, okay. I originally thought so. Basically, here was the storyline: Winky Face quit the game, but he quit the game just because he hated it or whatever. It turns out he's just PC broke, and he's just waiting till his PC back. And hopefully in February for Regional 2, he will make a comeback, and I know which duo it will be. And if it does happen, I feel like then that duo is gonna be actually has the potential. Let's just say it like that. And I really want to see what does happen if that. But for Regional now, I would say just Kuda Kunal will win it, or Spark, and everything else is just gonna go all over the place. Till basically Winky Face isn't here, I feel like APAC is just gonna be there. And it's just gonna be wild one. Like, yeah, Kuda Spark will win, then the next regional they won't make day 2. But we'll see how that goes. But yeah, a bit of a shame about Australian scene. Like, not much interest from there is happening at all. There was New Zealanders trying to bump with a stick, like, yo guys, join in, because Australian scene in terms of APAC is the biggest casual in terms of player base scenes. But in terms of competitive involvement, nothing much is happening. Only one that's a player that they did announce is Careless Cobra, but there's literally just one Australian player. There were 3 New Zealand duos, I think, even, and only one Australian, and it's yeah, it's we'll have to see how things evolve too in the future. But either way, that's the bit of a short summary of APAC a bit. It's gonna be a wild one. I think it's gonna be interesting, a bit chaotic to watch, also to see who actually do end up, because that region is a bit all over the place. And yeah, so do we have TMCL starting as well? Can you give a bit of a rundown of the matchups that are gonna be happening, Greedy, if you can?
Of course. Also, just to butt in regards to EU, just a wild prediction out there. I think Melio Matus and Kaku and Jean Rene will be in the final. Mark my words, that will happen. I have the script here. I got the notes, so that's my prediction. Just throwing
I would
it out
say, no, I don't want to leak it. I know there's a duo that will probably win it or be like top 2, but I think it's not announced yet.
Chatting.
I will say an announced duo currently is the one that's gonna win. Or that's not on the list so
SRK
far.
Can't leak.
I think that's the one. And then yeah, the Melio Matus one looks good. The guys who were at the top are ranked as well. Like whenever I got them in my matchmaking games, they were looking pretty solid in terms of pace. I was watching Sam play. I don't know who Sam is playing with, but Sam was doing okay. So Sam was doing like low 122s in matchmaking on agility dash regu, and I was actually impressed. I was like, okay, so Darkwix also was in TMCL, so that's something to note.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned early on as well. But I don't know. Do you have any specific, Marcel? Do you know any duo that you are in EU that you're keeping an eye on that you actually know of, or I mean, there's so many of them to even choose from to begin with.
My memory is so bad. I'm forgetting them right after I see the announcement. I forget. The only one I always keep in mind is Deska and Stuffs, because well, I always am rooting for the Polish players. But I also think they have merit. I think Deska was showing some real potential last year, and well, showing up in Arctic Gaming Experience, that was a pretty good thing to do, like qualify and go there. So I'm keeping an eye on them. I think they will put up a fight, and I hope to see them win.
Also, a duo that can do damage. I don't know if you have seen. There's like a third-party organizer, Setorin, who had been organizing these Rotor bracket events, and so far the winners of them have been Energize and Shinimi, or the Arctic Raptors lineup. Then Melio and Jean Rene. It's not really a duo, but those guys have been up there. The Melio Jean Rene beats Deska Stufts in the final. Then there's a duo of Murray and Sheriff as well, which basically are also kind of up there. What else there is? Yeah, basically those are ones. So I think that just shows how crazy Europe is gonna be. Like, you're gonna have really good teams not making the 2s or not even getting Rotor points. It's gonna be crazy. And cool to watch at the same time.
It's insane. I even forgot about Energize and Shinimi as well.
Me too.
Oh my god. Oh, it's gonna be... I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be absolutely insane.
Okay.
In some ways, I have even more hype, but... TMCL.
Before we go to TMCL, I was the only person who actually...
I was preparing for it. No,
yeah, okay. So, since I'm the only person who actually understands the APAC scene a bit, and you probably have no idea about predictions, my prediction for APAC is that top 2 is probably gonna be... The final is gonna be Kuda Jinkra and Spark. No, I'd rather not say. So basically, Dot Duo against...
So we have Spark and Kuda and Andy number 1. I think Andy number 1 will win.
Yeah.
I'm going for that one.
No, and okay, let's say either Planetary Goose and Sveds, or Kimi Pixels as the other duo in the final, and that's basically APAC.
I'll go for Kimi because it reminds me of Kimi Räikkönen from Finland.
Actually,
That's the
fun
closest.
fact: Kimi is a semi-professional kart racer.
See, there you go. Got it.
Yeah, he does karting. He literally travels around the region in karting and plays Trackmania tournaments on a laptop in hotels.
I'm a gambling
Focus.
man, so I'm just gonna say Seed 3 will win this.
Okay.
Going for a bit of an interesting one. Okay.
Okay,
Fair
yeah,
enough.
but TMCL now. Okay, enough
Okay,
with
well-
regional predictions.
Well, TMCL, of course, they have the benefit of actually seeing TMGL drive, so it's gonna be interesting to see what they go for as well. But the first match, Le Wiville Francais BS Plus versus Homnyotsun, aka Snow and Clust versus Fiedener? Question mark?
Fiedener, yes.
Yeah, Fiedener. Yeah. Okay, I almost blanked out on the Homnyotsun lineup. I had it written down even, but I still forgot for a moment.
I feel like
I
this
don't
is you don't know? You don't know? I feel like this is pretty straightforward for me, I think. Like Feed was so impressive last year, and I think Ener throughout the Feed reign on Lance, I think I saw Ener in some of those events too, and he was putting some good numbers always in Feed's shadow. But I feel like this duo is really um just I'm always blanking on words. I'm just gonna say they're really good. They're really good duo, and I think Snow and Glass. Thanks for the thumbs up. I think I'm just thinking that they're not gonna disappoint. I think Feed and Enter have quite big expectations towards them. Being like, especially Feed, being he had such a breakout year in 2022, and he probably would like for that to go on in 2023. So I'm gonna say that probably would favor Hominotsu in this matchup.
I would agree
well,
on
yeah.
that actually.
Well, overall, I would agree, but then again, I don't want to be the guy, of course, but of course, with the Trackmania Grand League, you have that bit of Serdi-esque in it as well, and Snow and Glass have been known to be very good on very interesting type of maps as well, from Serrator types as well. So I have a bit of interest in that, but on paper, when you look at who the players for Homyotsun are, Feed and Enter, it should be a pretty comfortable win for them. But as we've seen already from TMGL, you can throw anything out of the window, and we could just might as well toss a coin. We might be even correct with that, but on paper, yes, Homyotsun should be the one to take it comfortably, I feel like. But I'm keeping my mind open for the first day, especially since they have the chance to practice what TMGL. This is what the Challenger League has always had the benefit of. Ability to practice what TMGL does. So that might shake a few things up. They might change a few things around. We don't know what goes behind the scenes. Are there any scrims that we don't know of? Maybe some stuff like that. Could be interesting.
I just want to say that I found the word and it was formidable. They are a very formidable duo.
Oh,
Feed and Enter.
I like that.
That was the that was the word I was looking for, and now I found it.
Oh. So we are agreeing, at least the podcast agrees, that Homyotsun should take it. Now, in my opinion, an interesting matchup. Schweineheim versus Orcs Numelops, aka Barbos and Ratchet, the Bauer Duo brothers versus Complex and Panda. Now, I don't know where to put Orcs Numelops with Complex and Panda. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know what to expect from the duo. I know they are very good players, like everybody in Challenger is, but knowing what Barbos and Ratchet are capable of, I don't know. They are
I would
pretty competitive.
say that Panda is better than Ratchet and Barbos, but Complex is weaker than them. So it's gonna be an equal matchup due to that, I feel like. Like Panda, if you remember, like as soon as the guy actually puts effort in anything, like that guy is pretty good. I feel like
I had a similar thoughts about them. I mean, Panda, I'm complex. He didn't really catch my eye that much throughout the last year. But Panda, he was again. That kind of happens when French players play on all the French lands. Panda was kind of in the feed shadows, so we kind of have to compare them to feed. But when I'm thinking of like French players that upcoming new talent French players, Panda was second to feed in my eyes, and I think that is definitely a strong point of this team. Complex didn't really catch my eye throughout the last year. That's all I'm gonna say. Barbos and Ratchet together are very good, and as you said, I think they're both better than Complex, but probably weaker than Panda. But if I'm gonna bet on anything, I'm gonna probably bet on two good players. Okay, of course, I don't want to say that Complex is bad, but in this sense of comparison, two good players, then one amazing and one pretty bad.
I wouldn't say Complex is bad. I feel like in the
Yeah,
new
of course, I
game,
don't want to say that.
in the
we
new
can't
game,
really call
he's
anybody bad.
unproven. I would
Given the
say.
level, you have to have some kind of,
Yeah, in the new game,
comparatively.
I would say Complex is unproven. If we were still in TM2 era, I would say Complex would be like really up there. But in the new game, because Complex is and both Panda were hardcore. I mean, actually Ratchet and Barbos as well. But both Complex and Panda are way more used to be in the hardcore tech scene. Um, Not as much as I mean Barbos as well. They were like playing in PKD as well, like in like 2018, 17. So they're basically were playing against like in the tech team era against each other around that time. So it's gonna be an interesting matchup in that sense. Because there's a lot of people who like join in with the new game or like, oh, these are cool upcoming players, but they were like playing competitively, like even like way before. The same thing is with Bunks. Like under the previous name, the old name was for him was Alex. He was playing in teams like Neurotech, for example. And what's interesting is that Panda also used to play in Neurotech, and he was playing together with Binks in that era, so like 2018, 2019. And Complex was also well around that team Nomalops and PKD lineup. So Complex was playing with Barbos in some together in the tech team era when that was the meta. So there's some Trackmania lore there.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but I feel like if anything, like we cannot forget the fact as well that Panda actually has experience playing against the likes of Kappa and Mime. He played in the World Cup 2022 Open qualifier, beating beating a lot of good players. He played against Kappa and Mime, where he did fall eventually, but he's definitely has the experience. You look at Barbos and Ratchet, first time going up against such formidable opponents, at least in a competition of such scale. Complex, of course, I haven't looked into his competitive. I know he's been, of course, very well. He's played of course, Trackmania Country Championships. He's played. He's played. GA Assembly Tech Edition, I know he's played. So there's some things he's played, but if I had to look at the players there, Panda is the most proven out of them all, with the experience at least in that sense. But again, where do I put it? Do I go with Parbos and Ratchet? There's been some stories where they've been putting a lot of practice into these maps, or do I go with Panda and then Complex will just, Panda will be the offie and Complex will be the RL to him, You never know, could be the case, in some sense in that way, if we put parallels. So if I had...
say, if I had to say, I would say Schweinheim is better in theory. But we'll have to see how the match stays, and I feel like this has the bit of this TMGL syndrome, where like you don't know how it will end in the end.
So hard to call, man. I might as well just toss a coin. Like I say this so many times, but man, I'm gonna go with Parbos' Ratchet because when I saw that duo, I was really excited because they are like proper brothers. They have the synergy, they have the goal mentality. And judging by the little behind the scenes talks about how much they practiced and all, I'm gonna go with Schweineheim. but I feel like it's gonna be a close match just because Panda is playing on the other team, and I feel like it can be us Zugzwang between the two. It just depends on which one gets off to a good start, and that momentum will then carry on to the win. But I will stick with Schweineheim for the second match.
I think this match will depend a lot on Panda's mistakes. How frequent will they be? How much can Barbos and Ratchet capitalize on them? And yeah, that's probably the narrative of this match.
They're basically all three for Schweinheim in that sense.
Yeah, so far the podcast has gone with Homyo-tun for first and Schweineheim, at least mostly from Schweineheim in the second one. So that is the consensus for now.
Okay, then match number 3, Easy Dream versus Exalty. So
yeah,
Easy
Dream versus Exalty.
Yeah, Coco Worker is Easy Dream. So Coco appearing in the, let's just say, top sides of the ecosystem since...
From his retirement from it.
Yeah, retirement, yeah. Like since Trackmania 2 era, basically. Yeah. I mean, he was still playing like the third-party events and everything like that.
Yeah.
But Coco making appearance since TMGL Winter 2020 season now. And Worker as well having the retirement as well. Like the ex-retired duo, basically, under for Easy Dream now. And the other one is Link and Miquatro. I feel like Miquatro was the player when he actually did qualify under the old system to TMGL. Was starting to really improve, elevate, but I feel like there wasn't any proper event where he could showcase this improvement properly. And I feel like this might be one of the places where that could happen. Link, I feel like, is a player who is very consistent in terms of his performance, I would say. Not in terms of the playstyle, but in his performance. Like, he doesn't get worse, he doesn't get better, he's just plateauing in and kind of start to see that level, how it like matches up against everyone else around. And yeah, Worker, like, if you remember when him and Grenadi promoted into TMGL, like, Worker was looking as the fast one back then, but in TMGL, I feel like either his motivation was down or he didn't like the format, but seems like since many people really enjoy just playing the format, because it's just fun to play, and it's actually, like, way more competitive, like, there's this new kind of drive that's pops up from players, and I feel like this will kind of spark a new reformation for Coco and Worker, in my opinion. And for Link, I feel like he's gonna still stay in the same line, and Miquatro will improve even more. And I feel like this matchup can go either way with this.
I feel like this is a very exciting matchup. I feel like this is the one I'm the most excited about when it goes to TMCL, at least this week. From what I've heard, or rather from what I've read, it was that Worker retired because of lack of motivation. I don't remember the whole tweet longer, but the loss of motivation was the main point from what I remember. I got really excited when I heard that he's coming back, because I didn't get the chance to see how he played when he was in TMGL and when he was promoting to it. And I was pretty excited to see that he's teaming up with Coco, who also has this kind of narrative of like, he wants to show that he's like at the top with other players, because I feel like he said it. I'm not sure where he said it. He might have said it in my interview, but he said something like he wants to show that he's not just a manager for Easy Dream, because he was the manager for Easy Dream last year.
I mean, Coco himself has been a player who has played for a long time as well. Like, if I recall correctly, he placed even... I mean, he actually came with a similar background as Pac. So, okay, here's some Trackmania lore. So, Pac originally was a Canyon player that went to play Stadium. And Coco had the same thing as well, where Coco also started, was like a competitive Canyon player, and started to move to Stadium. He played in 2013, around 2016, he was starting to improve quite a bit. like side by side with Pac. While Pac, let's just say, won the World Championship in 2016, Coco was around like that top 8, top 4 range. And I remember he was playing with against our authority around that era. And then when he got to TMGL, or was invited for it, when there was the original invitation system for the first official season, not the beta one, he was kind of bits at the bottom most of the time, and I feel like most people kind of lost motivation because of the format. Like, he was still an okay player at the structure, but with this new system and everything, how he's playing a lot. Like, he plays top 8 in AGA as well. And I feel like with this improvement, even with the whole vibe and the whole scene is evolving in skill-wise as well. This is, I feel like, one of the rare times where I watch actually like all Trackmania tournaments and actually can see the skill difference. Let's say from 2012 and like 2020, or 2021 per se. Like, you actually watch the gameplay and you see the skill difference, what they do, how they approach lines, and everything like that. And he has also evolved with the times, which is a thing that has happened. And I feel like I really want to see how Reformed Coco will look like in this sense as well, if he actually gets that spark inside, which also with more like veteran players also are starting to have as well. I would not be surprised if Easy Dream wins, basically.
Well, for me, I would pick Easy Dream as well, because for me, Exalti's duo is gonna be Sinners for TMCL. I have done analysis on Challenger League, and I've been following Link a lot, and he's been the most underwhelming player given his prior accomplishments so far. And I feel like he has the same effect as Kappa and Tween has in Trackmania Grand League. This is my hot take. I feel like Link and Miquatro are gonna be completely last in TMCL just because of Link. I've waited for 2 seasons for Link to do something. It has not happened, and I have no faith like I had for Tween, and that's gone. I had for Link, that's gone. I'm drawing parallels. Link and Miquatro are gonna bomb out in TMCL. They might win a match or 2, but I have no faith. Miquatro is gonna be good. He's always been the consistent factor. Of course, his pace has not been something that always been up there, but he's been consistent. But Link, unless something changes, he's gonna be the same faith as Tween. I'm just saying it. I have Easy Dream taking it 4-0. I'm gonna be honest.
4-0
Maybe 4-1,
even?
but that's about it. That's my hot take. I do not believe in Link. I've done an analysis on him, even on my YouTube channel when the TMCL was happening, the old format. I didn't think his stats were horrible. He was underwhelming. There's nothing that has sparked any sort of like motivation in me saying that, oh, Link is exciting. Absolutely not. I hope that Miquatro finds a better duo. Just saying it. I know it's maybe very mean, but it's just been, I've enjoyed Link a lot over the years, but it just faded away. The same with Tween. But Tween is likable, at least. He always has a smile, you know. But Link, Link, I don't know. I just cannot foresee myself seeing Link do any good. He hasn't done it in TMCL. He hasn't done it in any other competition, and nor will he do it this year.
Sometimes it just has to be said. And to be honest, I thought I would be the one that is risking here with the easy pick, because I was going to pick easy here. But I thought I would be risking it with the more unknown to the more comparable, more known Exalti. But yeah, for me, it's easy too. I wanted to pick Easy Dream here.
Sorry for the rant, but Link is just, it's been a crux of every analysis I do every season.
Do you have something against him that you just like did like him like this?
The only reason Link got substantial points because the first step went well for him. Everything else, he was almost worse than Nixotica that season. Almost worse than Nixotica. And Nixotica didn't get any multipliers. That's how bad Link was that season. Based on the stats. If Nixotica had gotten one multiplier, significant one, they would have switched bots and Link would have been out of TMCL. That's how bad it would have been for Link. And that's not even capping. That's based on stats, like numbers. So I don't know. I have no faith. Unless Link proves me otherwise. Same as Tween. Tween wasn't able to do it. I don't think Link will do it. So I have easy dream taking it 4-0 or 4-1.
You've heard it here first. Nix is joining Exalti after this stage. We're
soon,
gonna
soon
see
TM.
North American player in TMCL. Amazing news, very exciting.
Yeah, that's my take. I
Yeah.
just that's a rant for Linkover, so yeah, that's
Okay,
good. I got it out of my system.
and then we have the last match of the for the challengers, which is Sprout and alternate attacks, and this is gonna be a good one. This is gonna be a good one. In theory, for, at least for me, these are for me our top two teams in Challenger, at least before any official matches played. For me personally, um, despite it seems like that all Scrappy is just doing the content set, but he's actually training as well, like off stream and stuff. Yeah, it's gonna be a good one. But I kind of I kind of don't want to jump to predictions immediately. I still would say Scandir and Vossile above Scrappy and Dexter. But it's gonna be a good match though.
Oh, I don't know where to put this match. The only thing I have a reference for is that Vosal was the reason, in a way, that Scrappy was out of the TMGL, in a way. Vosal was the reason that the spot was taken. So you can look at it in that way. There's a bit of a grudge in there. Of course, there's no big things, but there's something in there. There's always in the back of the mind. The same way you had the Lions ITV match where they were in the final of the show. Then I feel like there's a bit of that. Of course, there's no drama between the two, but there you have a bit of it back in your mind, thinking like, I'm going up against the guy that made me go out of TMGL in a way, or in that sense, you know.
Mhm.
So it is gonna be a match of the week for sure. Scrappy versus Volsile with Dexter and Skandir to accompany them. I don't know. It's sort of Sprout is gonna be the G1 of Trackmania Grand League. Will Scrappy show up and be as good as like Gwen would be for G1? Will Scrappy? He
Skill
puts a lot of effort.
they are like G1. Mentality wise, they're like sinners. Like as soon as they start losing a bit, it will start to snowball massively though. And we
Oh yeah,
have
you have
seen
to
that with Scrappy a
question
lot.
Scrappy's mentality as always, but it may be helping that he has a duo now as well.
I mean, a
Previously,
person who
he was
also has the same mentality as him. Like Dexter also
uh,
has the similar vibe. As he starts to lose, he starts, just panic mode, gets angry at him. That's why, that's why they are duo. It seems like.
I mean, they are the IIR gang, you know. They have the anime to fall back on at least. Maybe after a match, they watch a good movie about anime, you know, and that will solve all the issues, you know. Okay, that's jokes aside, but I mean, I don't know where to put this. It's do you go with the Scrapmeister, the person who has TMGL experience, he knows what he's going up against and everything. There's added motivation now as well, because previously I remember he said he wouldn't play TMCL at all, at least initially.
Yeah, but the whole
Whether
ecosystem changed, and it's
yeah,
like,
but then he
it's
has
better.
now renewed interest in it, so I don't know. It's again, does Scrappy show up or not? I think that determines the match.
Yeah, I feel like my decision is kind of driven just by the impression they gave me during last year. I feel like just Wazal overall impressed me like a lot. I feel like he had a great year. I feel he improved a lot throughout the whole year. Also, but I feel like, I mean, three seasons he was trying to get to that TMGL. He already did it. That's clear sign of improvements. He's back in TMGL. He's back in TMCL. But I feel like he's gonna stay at the top. I feel like Skandir is of a good assistance to him. If Skandir was kind of middle of a pack last, well, more so to the top than to the bottom of TMGLC. But yeah, I feel he's a little bit worse, weaker than Waza, I would say. But I feel like they make a pretty good duo, and they will probably stay at the top, top two, top three in TMCL for me. I would put them probably over Sprout, mostly because, to be honest, I don't really know much about Dexter. I don't really know about Dexter. I've seen him a lot in Cup of the Days with Grenady and stuff because I feel like he's in his German squad. But yeah, I don't really know a lot about Dexter.
Okay, I can
I
give
feel
you the
like
Dexter lore if you want.
sure, yeah.
Okay,
Run back.
Okay, back in the days, Dexter was like this hidden, really good tech player. He wasn't showing up. There was like he had this bit legend status. Like he only appeared sometimes. Whenever he appeared, he was like really good. Of course, nowadays, so like the whole scene is way more open. Like there's literally people, top players who like previously was like, I have seen him once in the server, kind like there's this myth legend status. Dexter was one of those players at the time, like many years ago. But now, since the whole dynamic of the scene has changed,
Yeah.
and you can like most people, at least people who are really were into the scene back in the day, still has this big back of the mind, like what Dexter was like seen at. He did play in TMGL beta season, but I mean that was a whole different dynamic and everything like that. Like he has a very good potential. Like he's basically like I would say it's like he's like a very good fit for Scrappy. Basically, like they're very equal in the way how they approach and play the game, and I feel like. They can basically if they fully focus and don't focus on stream and just focus on the gameplay when they have to play, I think that can be a really solid duo. Like it's basically they're like brothers in a sense in skill wise, I would say. Like they are very equal in their skill sets in that sense.
I mean, if there is any reference, like just a quick cup example, like German Trackmania Cup 2021 last year, Texter was second behind Massa, Granadi was third, and Revo was fourth, and that as a tournament where Ratchet and Barbos didn't get to the finals, so they were in the loser bracket finals, so there is a bit of reference there, but I don't know how much that affects now, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I don't doubt that Dexter is good. I don't doubt that he's probably top tier in TMCL because the hype around him, like on social media and everywhere, like it's insane. People are really putting him high, and that's all and great. But I'm just gonna go safe with known instead of the unknown for me personally, and I'm good. I feel like I'm gonna go with attacks, alternate attacks for this match.
Yeah, he hasn't had really. Dexter hasn't really had like an actual decent tournament performances since basically 2021. Everything else, so far has been basically events that are kind of like quick learn events. So there's nothing with actual preparation process behind them in a very good while.
That's also kind of like a mentality thing. Like I feel like Wazel and Skandir were kind of in that mentality of competition, like pushing forward through last year. Wazel more so on the like TMGL, TMGLC spectrum. Skandir also in the smaller tournaments, but he was participating a lot. But I feel like they had that mentality to really compete and push forward and advance and promote. And from what I've got from Scrappy before, like you said it, like he said that he wasn't really interested in playing TMGLC for the whole competition and getting back. I feel like I feel like I've read that somewhere too, so I'm gonna take that as a fact.
I do feel like
I've
that alternate, for example, are a duo that wants to win. But I feel like Scrappy and Dexter both have a really solid skill set, like I said. Like they're very similar in what they could do. But I feel like they do it more for the contract or for the content kind of thing, more like it, I feel like.
I feel like that's a mentality in the end, and I feel like alternate attacks is just gonna take it.
Yeah, I can agree.
Probably gonna be close. Probably gonna be like 4-2, 4-3. I'm not saying that it will be a blowout, but I feel like alternate attacks will take it.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards alternate attacks as well. But if anything is to go by, if Scrappy does come out, he's probably the fastest player in TMCL on paper. If he shows up, he drives the same pace as any TMGL player can. He's been in TMGL, we've seen that, and he's been able to keep up with those boys. So if Scrappy shows up, it's going to be very difficult for Vosal and Skandir. But by the consistency and knowing, like you said, both of you mentioned the motivation and the mentality, I would still go with alternate attacks for now. So, but definitely an interesting matchup. It could be it could go very even. It could be it bombs out for Scrappy because Scrappy just isn't in the mood for it or isn't in it. Could be the same for Bosal and Scandir. That is a match you can toss it everywhere, and you might be right. Just throw the dart at the wall. You might be right, but I'm for now with the reason that we have or the mentalities and everything, alternate attacks should be taking it.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, so far we have been very one-sided on our predictions. Seems like it's like seems like very close, but we all okay. We have a clear winner in here. Okay, we have a clear winner here.
But that's the case.
There's
Being
some
so,
aspects that are like there's just some aspects that we take for just more important, I guess, in some matchups, and that's just a values thing, right? And a feeling, like a gut feeling.
Yeah.
But for now, we are agreeable, and we are agreeing on that.
Yeah, and this is
outcomes.
Like
maybe
before
it will be different on TMGL predictions.
Yeah, this is like before any official match, and we're starting to have some kind of like clear distinctions.
You guys were saying last episode, like we have nothing to base this off, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, we
So
still got
it's
like
again
over half right, so I mean,
6 out of 8.
Well, I got 5 out of 8, but that was with me getting BDS 2-0, so I'll take it as a massive dub.
Yes, actually.
I'm just taking the underdog
BDS
picks.
would beat Solari though. Come on.
That was impressive.
I'm just gonna I'm gonna ruin my win or prediction win-loss ratio because I'm always gonna root for the underdog. So.
But I think that segues good into the Trackmania Grand League matches.
Yep.
First one, I feel like that's gonna be a short one. Solari versus Sinners. I mean, Solari. I don't see any way Sinners win that.
Unless they change their.
Ain't no way SRK. I don't see any. You could just put it to rest.
I want to
start digging the grave.
Let me speak.
There's nails in the coffin already.
Let him say that. I want to hear it.
They will just win.
Okay, Sinners will just win. Gotcha. Solari wins.
No. But I feel like here's the reasoning what I can give. I will give the same idea that they had been in the previous seasons. That as soon as they use the same maps, they kind of get used to them in theory. So they might get a bit better here. They kind of understood. Okay, this is our low point, so it's only we go up from here, kind of thing. I mean, there are a team that has the biggest difference between what their peak and what their worst is. Like I will say that they literally played worse than some regional teams. Like you could literally put them against some regional teams who haven't played the Grand League maps, and they could even lose to them, kind of thing. But I kind of do want to see that they a bit learn up, so it's not like a 4-0 in the end. So if it's like the same vibe as the BDS Solari match was, I think then it's a pretty good turning point for Sinners. If it's not, then well, it's GG for the rest of the season, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had all the copium you have, SRK. I cannot foresee that whatsoever, but I hope.
If you squint the eyes, they can maybe.
I mean, I have the tween copium tank on the side. Let me just quickly.
Nah, like everything what I say that are opinion based are really just like 2% odds of actually happening. So.
But just to give some reason to like picking Solari over Sinners, except just sheer dominance that Solari is like presenting, that Sinners are preferring some maps that are more technical, and they are in the minority of picks. Like Flip of Faith, the slowdown. There was one more map I was thinking of, but I kind of forgot as my memory is. But Solari showed that they are extremely fast on those maps too, and the priorities that Sinners have put for themselves on those maps, and training probably those maps mainly to pick them and prioritize them and catch some teams off guard will probably not work on Salary, because we already seen them like do amazing on those maps. So I just think Salary just is head and shoulders above Sinners right now, and there's probably no saving grace.
Yeah, it's very hard to find any convincing points for Sinners. I mean, it's just very hard to even convince myself to find any positives, because the only positives were against KC, but knowing the results that KC had, I mean, it's very hard to conclude. Plus, Solar, we played against BDS, and it was a run for the money there as well. And Solary basically went through the entire cycle of the maps, and basically all the maps look pretty good. And so yeah, I don't know. It's very hard for me, even knowing every single thing, stats, bans, everything. It's very hard to even find a glimmer of a light for Sinners somewhere. The only way I can foreseeably see them take even a map is if Pack just DCs isn't able to join for a match, and then they get one map, and then he joins for the next one. It's 4-1 then. That's the only way
Well, I
for now.
said all my
So-
2% take what could give the slimmer chance for Sinners, but I still feel like this is gonna be a very important match for them. That's gonna draw how rest of the season goes for them, honestly. In reality, I would
unanimous?
say for my populist pick, I would of course would go Solary, because that's like gigi obvious.
Mhm.
But I kind of wanted to give at least some points what could be on the defensive side for Sinners in this situation, basically. Like I would say that it's like I said, it's my 2% picks. That it is like 98 against 2% in reality. So
That's not gonna be less than 2%,
Yeah.
mate. That's a bit too less.
I value my prediction points too much. Sorry.
Yeah, it's Solary to take it. I'll go
Solary,
with that.
it's Solary.
SRK can enjoy the.
I will
Sinners
say
pick all he wants.
Solary as well. To clarify, but yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
What's
Next matchup: Carmine Corp versus ITB. The team that everybody predicted to do good, and the team that is proving to be very good now with ITB. So, where do your allegiance lie after knowing what happened in first week?
I would put ITB over K-Corp before the season started, to be honest. And maybe I'm biased because mine is there, but maybe I'm
Polish
biased.
bias.
I'm not saying I'm not, but I genuinely feel that they are top 3 team. IDB and K Corp really. I was putting some notes when I was watching the matches, like short ones, like something to just remember some stuff. And I literally put nothing on K Corp because like nothing caught my eye at all. And that's about that's about it for what opinion on K Corp right now I have. I'm putting IDB over them, like 4-2 for 1.
Well, like we mentioned that slowly, I think the Super League started to show that there's like 2 tiers of Grand League. Basically, there's the upper tier, which is the BDS Solary Alliance Gamers First and Into the Breach, and then you have the tier 2, which is Big, Carmine, and Sinner. So I would say Into the Breach reality. Like, of course, Brenno and Notak are really good players, but they're starting to fall off a bit, I feel like. Unless I'm proven wrong, and if they get... Or maybe they just had a really bad weekend as well. Like I said, we don't have that much to base off so far.
They're both great players. I don't doubt that Bren, with his actually now quite big experience, and Otak with his quite good breakthrough year, that they can actually improve in the standings and they can improve in the matches. But for now, I just feel ITB are on the upwards trajectory, and I don't know what teams would be able to stop them at the moment except Solary and BDS.
Yeah,
I would still say ITB
and
myself.
themselves,
yeah,
by the way, and
themselves. Yeah, that's true.
But
That is
yeah.
true indeed.
My pick still goes to, I would say, to ITB. I see them one of the top tier teams, and KCIC as they're the best bottom tier team in so far. But yeah, ITB in my pick.
Yeah, I have to go with ITV as well. Given the fact that Elcon actually has impressed me more than OTAC has, and OTAC should be the one that should have the experience more and should be more comfortable with the pressure, at least, of playing
Yeah, the other way around.
in that sense. Yeah, not the other way around. Elcon, of course, you can see Mime as well. That glass cannon is there, but it's a lot more structured and it feels a lot more comfortable and convincing than it did for KC. Especially from day one, Bren was doing really good and Otak was not up there. And on day two, once Bren was having a day off, Otak was nowhere to gather the pieces and be like the second man to Bren. After that loss, they got to G1, and knowing how volatile G1 is, of course, with Gwen and Binks. So I have to go with ITP unless KC can gather up the pieces and improve and do better. It's very hard to put KC on top of ITV at the moment, given recent results, and especially since Mime is arguably at the moment top 5 players in the league as well, and Elcon being relatively good support for him as well. He has the pace, does do a few more mistakes, but definitely Elcon has a lot varied skill level in all styles, full speed ice. He knows all the styles, all the stuff, and he is a lot more versed in variety maps and skill sets as well, even more than Otak, I believe. So I have to go with ITB in this case.
Again, another 3-0 in terms of predictions. Nothing one-sided. Like, nothing so far. We said it is gonna be all over the place, but so far has been,
we can get there. I feel like the next one could be a bit of an interesting one, wouldn't you say? Alliance versus Big. The team with the most unknowns being the Big and Alliance. Having on paper, the better team, but the results are yet to come. So where do you put it now? Big, of course, doesn't have much to go on because they have only played 4 maps. They've gotten 4 Oath, and they have 4 Oath another team. Where do we go with this one? I feel like this is the more interesting one.
I feel like this is gonna be the real decider on who's gonna be in that. So both of the teams, I kind of see them in this mid pack a bit. Like Big, I mean, not really. For me at the moment, I still kind of rate Big as one of the bottom tiers, like bottom top 2 so far. Like what happened against Sinners, but they didn't even play good, and they 4-0'd a way weaker team, or a team that was like not playing good. Way worse. They were basically a team that was not playing good, and a team that was playing really bad. Basically, that was the big Sinners match yesterday. And since they're playing a team that's at least has some kind, basically a team that know how to win maps. They haven't lost a single. They had every single match where they have at least won a map kind of thing. And the only match that they did lose to was against ITB, who are looking quite sharp, at least in that match. I would say Alliance is the one that does take it. Big is, I think they could take like a map or 2 here and there, but I feel like that Alliance is gonna still take it.
What I think about Alliance is that they're kind of the benchmark team in the league. Like, they are the team that kind of shows the average skill in TMGL, and you can be either like above them in top tier, on below, or below them in bottom tier. That's kind of how I see it. And to be honest, I don't know how I would rate Big, because I like this duo. I like Grandi, I like Masa. I like them as a players. I like them as content creators, personages, but I like them also as players. I don't know how I would compare them to Alliance. From what I like, their sample size is really small, as you said, and from what I caught from Alliance right now is that they very much rely on each other. that I feel like that's kind of very characteristic of them right now, of this duo, that they rely on each other heavily. Like when one does make a mistake, like at the beginning, in the middle, the other they will communicate that, and the other will clutch it, or at least stay consistent enough to not get aced. That's something I feel like was happening. I don't know if the stat guy would confirm that, but that's what feeling I got. With Massa and the Grady, there's literally such a small sample size that it's really tough to call. Just off of gut feeling, I would say probably Lions take it, but it's a gut feeling, and it's really tough to call. It's really tough to call.
I mean, if we go into stats, Alliance and Big have a very similar picks in regards. They both pick Slippery Slides, they both pick Parkour, they both pick Freestyle, they both pick back and forth. The only difference is their permabans, as Alliance permabans slowdown and Big permaban reps. So, in my eyes, I'm gonna be the devil's advocate in here, and I feel like Big will win against Alliance.
How are
Just
the
because of the
times looking like
just
on
because
those
of the
maps?
fact, yeah, just because of the fact that first of all, a lot Big. There's if you are in the position of Alliance, how the hell are you gonna pick any reference? You have a match where they got destroyed. Well, not destroyed, but due to technical issues and everything, they got bombed out, and then they beat the lowest team. How are you gonna base this going into that match? There's nothing to go by. I feel like Big have a very strategical advantage going against Alliance, because Alliance has played more matches, more maps. They can see a lot more the weaknesses, and Big has only played 4 maps out of the 10. 4. That's insane. It's mind-boggling that they managed. Of course, it's the 4-0s that happened, but 4 maps, all of them? I don't know, man. It's very weird. Of course, Alliance didn't play any reps, but reps is permabanned by Big, and they didn't play arrow pipes and flip of faith. But flip of faith and arrow pipes are very in the minority picking as well. So I don't know. I'm gonna say that Big will take that match. I'm
Well,
looking forward to seeing that.
to be honest, it's kind of like not true that the sample size is really small, because we have to remember Big is the only team that were publicly practicing. People know what they're doing, so it's not like they're a total mystery. They have a small sample size in matches, in competitions, but they are an open book when it comes to the maps, or at least their proficiency at it, because I don't think they half-ass their practice on stream. So that's something worth taking into account. And to be honest, this is a match that I would say will be the toughest to call out of all of the matches that were played at the moment. This is a tough call. And when I said Alliance, I kind of got that like a feeling in my belly that was like, something's wrong here. Something's wrong here. But that's a feeling that I get often when I make predictions in a very very close matchup. That's what I feel like. So I'm not gonna change my prediction from Alliance to Big, but I like to have that into account, that uh, Big is the only team that is practicing openly, publicly, and they are not a mystery, even though they have a small sample size competitively.
I mean, they have online presence, but as we've seen in matches, those online times are significantly slower still. They have all of the teams have really outdone or really surpassed all the online times with pretty good convincing times in rounds, might I add. Those are time attack times on online records. They are beating them in rounds in matches. So yes, Big might be have the may have the most open hand, but then again, they have the most way of misleading teams the most, if anything. Like, imagine how many times did we hear Massa complain about back and forth on the stream? Now it's the map that is the most played in TMGL, and they are banning reps where he didn't put too much into emphasis on. So having an open hand could be the most misleading part of anything. You put your cards out there, but you have like a trump card out of the pocket, and that could just sway the entire thing. Those cards didn't mean anything. Only the one that
Yeah,
counts.
it's kind of hard to tell because,
That's true.
like, probably if you're like practicing like a map on public and you hide some of the other ones, it's kind of hard to tell is the map that you're hiding is the bad one or is it the good one. So it's kind of creates this kind of misinformation, and there's only just one ban. It's like a 50-50, and that map when then or that map that is in that pool then pickable or can pop up, then can be that match swayer maybe then as well.
Mm-hmm. But I can see that there is an alliance fan section, and then there's a big boy section here. So this is the first vote where we will go separately. So you two are going with alliance, but it's very close, and I'm going with big as far as I understood the goings here.
If we amplified our predictions to my individual map win from this, then it kind of corrects the same. As a 2-1, I think the map result will be 4-2. So I think it shows something here. But yeah, then the last match of this week's for TMGL is gonna be G1 versus BDS. In my opinion, as I mentioned, these are the two top tier teams. But if the message from the chat is also correct, if it's actually true, that Afi will have problems due to the military surface, it's could be a thing that could start a bit, mess with how you approach such things.
I mean, yeah, but I know that at least in the countries, well, at least there are certain rules, at least more being implemented in regards to allowing esports to be an exception in that regard, because you are sort of employed in some sense, and it can be made. I don't know, of course. I have no idea about Switzerland's mandatory military service laws, but I mean, nowadays it's become more common that esports is being allowed as a scapegoat a bit more, but it's very in between. Of course, as far as I understood, nobody really asked him how it's going to affect his attendance, but taking the match at face value, I mean, I cannot look at Gwen and be like grinning and saying, "What if Gwen? What if Gwen just pops off and they just annihilate BDS?"
I feel like the two key players, if you
I feel
base
like
off
this-
the last weekend, is gonna be for G1. It's gonna be Gwen, and for BDS, it's gonna be RL. Like those two players will be determining who is gonna win this one. If RL steps up, then it's BDS. If Gwen steps up, it's G1. It's a 50-50 in that sense, I feel like.
And in this matchup, I think this is an unfavorable matchup for G1 because I feel like their best map is Gyroscope, at least for Gwen, and this is a permaban for BDS. They're always banning this, so this is something that might that. Oh, okay. I see the finger.
It's not
What's
correct.
going on?
The permaban for BDS is the same as Alliance. It is slowdown. BDS have
My
played
bad.
Gyroscope. The only time they didn't play Gyroscope is when Solary banned it against them, because Solary's permaban is Gyroscope. So BDS did play Gyroscope against ITB, and they did lose against ITB on that map.
Okay, that's my mistake then. I own up to it, but still, I would say BDS is probably taking it unless Alpha is really not gonna play and Alpha Dream is gonna step up into this into the duo with RL. Other than that, I feel like BDS has this. Gwen might have a beast performance like in day 2, but I don't know. I feel like BDS is just
Isn't
a top
Yannick
tier,
the
like
substitute?
top 1 team. Oh, do they have a sub? I didn't know.
I don't know what BDS sub is in this. I know
Because
Yannex and Bingo are their casters, but
I know Alpha Dream is their
Alpha
coach,
Dream
and I know
is for
coach can go in.
Mm-hmm.
Alpha Dream is for G1.
Oh, G1. Oh, then okay. Then my information source is just completely wrong, and you can totally ignore me.
Sources.
No, you're right. You're right. I don't know why I thought Alpha Dream is in BDS. Okay, I totally was misinformed here. So, well, I guess I'm spinning out some nonsense. Still, even if it's Yannick's, I don't think it's gonna go good for BDS if Faf is not playing. But Faf will probably play, and it will be a win for BDS in my opinion.
I don't know who to pick. Do I go with BDS for the consistency? Do I go for the Quen factor? It worked 50% of the time. Will it work for the third time?
Yeah, this is the ultimate coin toss matchup, I feel like, at least so far.
It's so dependent. Like, I cannot even fathom. Like, if
I'm
Quen
actually gonna
doesn't
do
show
a
up,
coin
it's an
flip.
easy win for BDS. But we will only know that on the day it actually happened. So I am gonna be a bit fun on this. I think Gwen will show up, and I think G1 will win that match. There it is.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna go for it. I have that feeling in my gut. It worked once out of the 2 times.
I just did a coin flip.
Again.
I just did a coin flip and I got BDS, so for me it's BDS. I think this is an absolute 50-50, so I'm relying on an actual coin toss.
Yeah.
Man, I'm gonna regret that G1 decision, but I'm gonna stick to it. G1 will win against BDS.
I'm going confidently with BDS. I don't know. I feel confident with that.
God, I'm gonna be such a laughing stock at the end of the week, probably. Putting big against Alliance, and then putting G1 ahead of BDS. Ain't no way. If I'm right, it's I can just already be like, yep. Where's the next lottery ticket, ladies and gentlemen? Oh god. But I'm sticking with it. I'm gonna stick with things. G1. I'm going for the Gwen factor.
All right, and to slowly start to do a wrap up of today. So basically, to go to the very first topic, Trackmania 2020 will be coming out on Steam February 2nd. It's a good thing for the scene, increases player base a lot. W basically, as kids say nowadays. Then basically, MEA, low participation, big numbers, but F10 winning MEA regional. Very interesting how the region will develop in the future, how many teams, how it will develop. It's going to be an interesting thing to follow, especially who's going to be for the top 2 and top 1 slots for the minor events coming later. That's the same case for NCSA. NCSA, I feel like it's going to be fun to follow just how the whole tournament structure will go. And on top of that, the slots as well, because it's like the biggest region in terms of player base, but now with the competitive attached to it, it's going to be interesting how that evolves. But yeah, Damascus winning there with Neil and Exotica. TMGL Super Week started to give us like an idea of some teams. And now we did the predictions for TMCL. Europe regionals gonna be all over the place. Do or die, massive one. And APAC is just gonna be APAC. I mean, not much else to say to that. And we'll have to see how things develop in the future now. And yeah, once again, thank you, Marcel, for joining us for this episode. Hope you have fun with this, and it was awesome to have you here as well. And yeah, let's see how our takes basically will go to for both regionals, TMCL and TMGL afterwards. So we'll see. It's gonna be an exciting weekend. So this time instead of it's just gonna be Saturday, Sunday. So it's not gonna be on Friday like last time around, since MIA is not taking place this weekend. And we'll have to see how things will look like. And it's definitely very, very exciting times for Trackmania now with the Steam announcement as well. And the whole new ecosystem starting. There's so much scouting also happening behind the scenes. One thing that we didn't mention is that, or didn't touch upon, is that for the NCSA regional, Handro and Nova got picked up by a team called Final Form, which is they basically compete in the RLCS South America regionals. And so basically we're starting to see some pickups here and there. For APAC, I believe there should be some interesting announcements maybe happening during this week as well. And same case for Europe as well. So it's a really exciting times for Trackmania, honestly. And this is just literally just the first weekend in that sense. And there's so many things that will come to the side, console release, Steam release, and everything like that. And we'll have to see how things snowball in the future now.
Oh, for sure. And also, I was curious actually, since you are our guest star as well, Marcel, for the day as well. Is there anything interesting upcoming for you as well on your YouTube channels or anything that maybe people can look forward to? More interviews, more quizzes, or something, perhaps?
Well, the quiz series has ended right now, and I am probably planning on doing one more. But in the future, the interviews, there will be probably one this week for sure. I'm trying to get this average of one per week, so at least one per week. So I'm gonna be busy a little bit this week also with a trip, but I'm gonna try and catch one of the players at least to talk to. So definitely, and interviews they're gonna be on my channel and posted on Twitter too. So there's something to look forward to for sure.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah, if something interesting happens in Steam, there might be videos from me coming as well. So that's also. But yeah, we'll have to see how scene develops, if there's going to be interesting things popping up. There have been some interesting topics here and there, but I kind of want to see how everything resolves to basically bring them up here. And yeah, basically exciting times, as I don't want to become a broken record kind of thing. But yeah, the memes aside, 2023 is definitely looking as the year of Trackmania, honestly. And at least not the year, but definitely as a good starting point. But yeah, that's going to be a wrap-up for the episode 2 of the TalkPoint podcast. Hope you enjoyed watching or listening. And if you have any final shout-outs from each of you, then this is your chance.
I mean, for me, it is like if you want to follow any stats on TMGL or anything, once my massive Excel sheet is complete, I will try to dump as much information I've already gone over, like picks and bans, aftermath as well. I'm collecting stats like what is more likely to happen on a certain map, ace victory or a draw, based on maps, pick and bans for every map, pick percentage, everything you could possibly ask for. I'm collecting it, and hopefully I can be the guy to maybe take over the sort of the mantlet of in some sense of the people who post stuff online. And there's a lot of stuff on Reddit already, but I'm trying to collect as much as possible already on the side as well. So if you're interested in stats and stuff, you know where to look for some at least.
Yeah, and on my side, of course, you can check me out on YouTube and Twitter on as Marcel Roszyk, ROSZ.
It's written on screen.
YK. Yeah, it's written on screen. That's also true. So yeah, you can expect interviews to come from me. Also on Twitter, sometimes I do some just obscure stats or things that I find interesting. So you can expect that too. Also, if you haven't voted yet in TM Awards on Social Creator of the Year, I take any chances for any votes. So you can go there and vote for me because I got nominated, which is very humbling and a very big honor for a first year. So yeah, with bleak chances I'm doing that shameless plug, yes, and you can go there and vote for me. So that will be it for me.
All right. From my end, then, once again, thanks you for watching and listening. We'll be moving the podcast for the lives on this channel right here. So definitely leave a follow if you want to look forward to additional podcasts. It will always be on Mondays at 21 EET, or as COTDs are the best universal time measurement system, basically 1 hour after the main COTD. So that's where we're going to be going live. Additionally, the VODs will be also up on YouTube if you want to check them out there or didn't see the full thing in detail. Either way, that's going to be it for us. Thank you all for watching or listening, and we'll see you all later. Bye-bye.
Have a good one, ladies and gentlemen.